Welcome to this evening's Sovereign Systems Institute ministry with Pastor David. I'll open this evening's ministry. We gather as sovereign beings under the lawful design of life encoded within each of us. In this sacred space of the Sovereign Systems Institute, we pause to recognize our jurisdiction, our capacity, and our contract with the natural order. May our words and decisions align with the resiliency code and generate sovereign wealth for ourselves and all who will follow the resilient path. Tonight we're exploring the emotional field. We're going to talk about something I'm seeing everywhere. Something I think most of you are feeling too. People are numb. Not sad, not angry, not even afraid anymore. They're just numb. They're watching the world destabilize around them, and instead of engaging with it, they're checking out. They're looking for escape in any way they can find it. And I get it. I really do. Look at what's happening right now. Regular lottery jackpots hitting several $100 million every few weeks. Professional athletes signing mega contracts for amounts of money that don't even make sense anymore. Everything you see in the media is fake or manipulated or so heavily edited you can't trust anything digital. Prices keep rising even though nobody's spending money the way they used to. Gold and silver are on this roller coaster ride that makes no sense from one week to the next. None of it adds up. None of it makes sense, and people know it. They can feel that something's breaking. They just don't know what to do about it. So they do what humans have always done when reality becomes too overwhelming to process. They find ways to numb out. This isn't new. The Romans called it bread and circuses. Keep people fed and entertained, and they won't notice the empire collapsing around them. We've just gotten really good at it in America. We've got lottery tickets for the bread. We've got professional sports and reality TV and social media for the circuses. We've got endless video games and content streaming in our homes 24 hours a day, designed to keep us distracted from what's actually happening. And it works until it doesn't. Here's what's essential to understand tonight. Your emotional field isn't just about managing your feelings. It's about staying present to reality, even when reality is overwhelming. And right now, most people aren't just emotionally dysregulated. They're emotionally disconnected. They've unplugged from what's happening because processing it feels impossible. They've chosen numbness instead. And I understand that impulse. When everything around you feels like it's spinning out of control, when nothing makes sense anymore, when every piece of news is more destabilizing than the last, the temptation to just check out is real. But here's what happens when you choose numbness over presence. You lose the ability to navigate. Think about it like this. You're driving down a road and fog rolls in, thick fog, the kind where you barely see 10 feet in front of you. You've got two choices. You can pull over, turn off the car, close your eyes, and wait for someone else to tell you when it's safe to drive again. Or you can slow down, turn on your headlights, focus on what you can see, and keep moving forward carefully. Most people right now are choosing option one. They're pulling over. They're shutting down. They're waiting for someone to tell them it's safe again. But here's the problem. The fog isn't lifting. It's getting thicker. And if you've shut down completely, if you've numbed yourself to what's happening, you can't navigate even when you need to. Your emotional field is what allows you to stay present to reality and respond with capacity instead of reaction or withdrawal. When it's regulated, you can feel what's happening without being overwhelmed by it. You can process information without shutting down. You can navigate complexity without collapsing into numbness or panic. When it's dysregulated, you swing between extremes. Either you're overwhelmed and reactive, or you're numb and disconnected. Right now, most people have swung all the way to numb. They're not feeling anything anymore because feeling means facing reality, and reality feels just too big to handle. Let me be honest with you about something. I feel it too. There are days when I look at what's happening in the world and I just want to turn it all off. Stop reading the news, stop paying attention, stop trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. There are days when buying a lottery ticket or binge watching a series or just scrolling for hours sounds a lot easier than doing the work of staying present and building capacity. I get the temptation. I really do. But here's what I know. Every time I've chosen numbness over presence, every time I've chosen escape over engagement, I paid for it later. Because the world doesn't stop moving just because I stopped paying attention. The destabilization doesn't pause just because I'm overwhelmed. And if I'm not present to what's happening, I can't respond when I need to. So, how do you stay present when everything feels so overwhelming? How do you keep your emotional field regulated when the world around you is designed to either overwhelm you or numb you out? Here's what I learned. You don't try to process everything at once. You can't. Nobody can. The amount of information coming at you every day is more than any human nervous system was designed to handle. So you don't try to handle all of it. You prioritize signal over noise. Signal is what directly affects your capacity across your 9 fields. Noise is everything else. If gold prices are swinging wildly and you don't own gold, that's noise. If you do own gold and you're not planning to sell it this week, it's still noise. If a lottery jackpot hits $500 million dollars and you didn't buy a ticket, that's noise. Even if you did buy a ticket, it's noise until the numbers are drawn. If an athlete signs a contract for $300 million dollars and you're not that athlete or his agent or the team owner, that's noise. Most of what's overwhelming people right now is noise. It's spectacle. It's designed to capture attention and trigger emotion without requiring any response from you. And your emotional field can't stay regulated if you're trying to process every single piece of noise that comes your way. So here's what staying present actually looks like. You're identifying what's signal, what actually affects your capacity, what actually requires your attention and response, and you let the rest be noise. That doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you stop trying to carry the emotional weight for things you have no jurisdiction over. You can't fix the lottery system. You can't control athlete contracts. You can't stop media manipulation. You can't stabilize gold prices. Those things are happening whether you pay attention to them or not. And obsessing over them doesn't help you navigate. It just drains your emotional capacity. But here's what you can do. You can steward your own fields. You can build your physical field so your body can handle stress without collapsing. You can regulate your emotional field so you can process information without shutting down. You can strengthen your intellectual field so you can think clearly even when nothing makes sense. You can build your creative field so you're generating solutions instead of just consuming problems. You can align your connection field so you're surrounded by people who expand your capacity instead of draining it. You can structure your vocation field so your work sustains you instead of extracting from you. You can organize your environment field so the spaces you occupy support your capacity instead of overwhelming it. You can steward your resources field so you're building assets instead of hemorrhaging them. And finally, you can anchor your faith field so you have meaning and purpose even when the world feels meaningless. That's not numbness. That's not escape. That's stewardship. And here's what happens when you do this. When you focus on signal instead of noise, when you steward your fields instead of trying to fix the world, you start navigating again. Not perfectly, not without difficulty, but you're moving forward instead of sitting on the side of the road waiting for someone to rescue you. You start building capacity again. Not quickly, it takes time. Not without setbacks, but you're generating instead of just consuming. You start seeing patterns instead of just feeling overwhelmed. Not because the chaos disappeared, because your emotional field is regulated enough to process what's actually happening. Let me tell you what I'm not saying. I'm not saying ignore what's happening in the world. I'm not saying pretend everything's fine. I'm not saying put your head in the sand and hope it all works out. What I am saying is this. You can't navigate what you refuse to see, and you can't see clearly if you're either overwhelmed or numb. Staying present means staying engaged with reality without being consumed by it. It means processing signal without drowning in noise. It means building capacity in your own fields instead of trying to fix systems you have no jurisdiction over. Here's the resilient path through emotional overwhelm. Pause. Recognize when you're sliding into numbness or overwhelm. If you're spending hours scrolling, binge watching, or obsessing over things you can't control, that's a sign there's too much noise and your emotional field is compromised. Prepare. Identify what's signal and what's noise in your life right now. What actually affects your capacity? What actually requires your attention and response? Everything else is noise. Just let it go. Participate. Steward your fields with the capacity you have. You can't fix the world, but you can build your physical field. You can regulate your emotional field. You can strengthen your intellectual field. You can generate your creative field. You can align your connection field. You can sustain through your vocation field. You can organize your environment field. You can steward your resources field. And you can anchor in your faith field. That's not escape. That's engagement with what you actually have jurisdiction over. The world is destabilizing. That's not going to stop. The noise is going to get louder. The spectacles are going to get even bigger. The temptation to numb out is going to get stronger. But you don't have to collapse into numbness. You don't have to swing into overwhelm. You can stay present. You can process signal. You can navigate with the capacity you've built. Collapse is optional, but only if your emotional field is regulated enough to stay present when everyone else is choosing numbness. Focus on signal. Steward your fields. Keep building. The fog's not lifting, but you can still navigate through it. I'll now close our ministry for this evening. Having prepared through this fellowship, we return to participate from our individual sovereignty, carrying the coherence generated here into our respective fields, in service to lawful design of life and the continuation of this work. Take care, everyone.